All right, we are live here at the 2019 rep meeting at Gateway Woods, doing an Inside Gateway episode with a live studio audience. Can we hear the audience? That was not a sound effect, so they are here. You can't see them, but we are blessed to have the Beer family, so Joe, Heather, Connor, and Hannah. And we're missing
Cooper.
Missing Cooper.
Yep.
So,
Down south.
so which house are we in right now?
We're in the Pine House.
Okay, is this familiar to you?
It is. It's bringing back some pretty good memories. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, very good. So you guys obviously were house parents here. So how long has that been since you were house parents?
Be
Going on
6
6
years in May.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We
a
were
while.
here from 2010 to 2013 in this house.
Okay. And then before that, you were at,
Maple House.
Yep.
so
Yep.
we are blessed to have you in both houses here today for breakfast and then now here for the interview.
Yep.
Okay, so Hannah, you were a house parent kid. How now working in the office, how has that kind of affected the way you do your job?
Well, it was really good in that I was a lot familiar with Gateway already, but I've gotten to see a whole lot more, everything that goes on behind the scenes and the different programs, which I didn't even really know or care about at the time. But yeah, it was really great to have both sides.
Very good. For those that don't know, Hannah is, what is your official title? Is this
I'm
more than a
office
secretary?
coordinator.
Office coordinator.
Yeah.
She manages a lot of the intakes that come in, and then obviously a lot of the paperwork for the state. Really, every department?
Yeah, I work a little bit with every department.
Okay, very good. Connor, what are you doing these days?
I'm taking a gap year. I just graduated last spring, so I'm working at Grable Cabinets down the street, and also Theater Academy for homeschoolers in high school and elementary in Fort Wayne.
Very good. So growing up in this house, essentially, what's a fun memory that you have?
I remember doing treasure hunts throughout Leo for, I think, July 4th, guys v. girls, and I remember taking a picture with a buffalo herd along a fence and a bunch of guys leaning up against it without knowing it was an electric fence.
Shocking.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
That's right. That's a good one.
Yeah,
That's good. So who organized the scavenger hunt or treasure hunt?
that one.
Okay.
Not me.
We like to do, I think that was for 4th of July. One year, those holidays, we like to do something out of the ordinary to kind of make it a little bit more tolerable for the kids to be here.
Sure.
So, yeah, it was fun. I think the guys won that one.
Yeah.
They got to put whipped cream in our faces.
That's right. Yeah.
Very good. Now, I think you mentioned a while back that this room over here would turn into kind of like WrestleMania with you and the boys, or you would do different games, like fun memories. So
Not so much you mean with my own boys,
Yeah, yeah.
maybe, but I do remember one time, I think we were down to one male resident. So Heather and the assistant had taken all the girls out, and I think he was the only one home. And he was one of the residents that could kind of match him in ping pong. And he was really good. So we cleared out all the furniture from this room and the kitchen table we moved out. We brought the ping pong table into here, and we played long distance ping pong. And it was a blast. We probably did that for an hour. I think I was having just as much fun as he was.
no, as a house parent myself, yeah, when you find somebody that has like a skill or a hobby that's a similar interest to you, it's just, you can get lost in that moment. It's really special.
Yeah, it was.
So for me, it was either ping pong or Mario Kart or basketball or those kind of things. Some people that liked fishing, it's not really what I do, but you really have to find a way to reach that.
If you hook them up with Chad Cave in that
Yeah.
case.
Or my brother Matt, yeah.
Yeah.
No, so really good. So do we have any questions from the audience at this point? Yeah.
I have a question. So, Joe and Heather, talk a little bit about how you feel like Gateway affected your kids growing up in very formative years. Was it negative? Was it positive? And just talk about that just a little
You want me to go first? Yeah, I would say that that was one of the big concerns that we had when we moved out, because our children, Hannah was 11, and then Cooper was 9, and Connor turned 8 just after we moved here. So we were kind of we were in the tweens and heading into the teens. So that was definitely a concern for us. But looking back, I find it to be it was a super positive experience. I think it gave them a wider view of the world than they had had previously. We homeschooled, and so, I mean, they're socialized, but not overly much. So, so it just gave them, I think it gave them greater compassion and just understanding that there are a lot of people in the world that don't grow up with the privileges that we have had. And I don't know, I found it to be a super positive experience.
Yeah.
Do you have anything?
Yeah, and I think what a lot of people would have fear of is just having other kids interact with our kids kind of on their own. And the thing is, once we came in, we didn't realize coming into it, that Gateway is so structured. I mean, you can make it as structured as you want, but there was so much built into it that that they were really never alone with any of the other kids unless we allowed it to. Like if a kid would build enough trust. But yeah, I think the structure alone got rid of a lot of that fear.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There were some really, I feel like they formed some pretty good friendships with some of the residents too. Our boys were kind of at that age. We had some boy residents that were around their age, and so it was, they just formed some good kinships while they were here. And I think kids can be therapeutic for the residents as well. They provide good modeling for the residents. So it was good.
Yeah, you speak of the kids being therapeutic. Our kids were much younger than that, and little babies. It was just amazing, like girls or even guy residents just holding a little baby, coming to visit us in the hospital when we had a baby. Just really special things that I love this house parent model. It's a family, and you all can do a part. I did a post the other day, I think it was Ren and Niall, with one of their residents, just reading a book together. And I put in that post, it's the house parent kids can reach the hearts of the residents, or God uses them in a way that we as house parents can't do. And that's just really special. So, really cool. So where were you guys at before you came to Gateway?
We were in Bradford, Illinois.
So what were you doing for a living at that point?
Yeah, so I was working for a kitchen company, remodeling kitchens. So I think we were up there for 6 years.
Okay, so coming here, putting in kitchens to really kind of working in the hearts of young teens, bit of a switch?
Yeah, it was. I was teaching Sunday school there as well, though, and I've just always had a love being with youth and interacting with them. So it wasn't, it definitely was a switch, but it wasn't too terribly hard.
Good. How about for you, Heather?
Yeah, it was a switch. I wasn't at the teenage years yet with our own kids, but we kind of always had this strong appreciation for family, and had kind of already started feel a pull towards some sort of family outreach or ministry. We didn't really know what exactly that looked like, and so we had been praying through that some before God said, "Hey, why not Gateway?"
So yeah, speaking to that, what was it that God used to speak to your family?
So for me, we had a couple of big decisions on our hearts we had been praying through in the summer of this year coming up. And I was going through a time in my life that I was praying for there's about 3 big decisions, and I wasn't getting any answer at all from God. I wasn't getting a yes, I wasn't getting a no. And so it was a good spiritual challenge for me, just to stay connected with God and to realize that, His timing is not always my timing. So this went on for a number of months, and one morning I came down early and just laid out on the floor. And I poured all that out to God again, and I said, whatever your will is, let that be mine. And he just audibly said, why not Gateway? And I said, that's not even what I'm praying about. But through the course of just meditating on that, and my wife then came down an hour or so later.
Yeah.
and you can
I
kinda
remember
speak to
coming
that.
down that morning and I was coming into the living room as he was coming out, and I could tell that he had some sort of encounter, or I mean, he just looked different. I'm like, what's going
Was
on?
his face like shining?
Well, and maybe it wasn't quite that far, but yeah, and he pitched it to me, and I'm the practical one of the two of us. That's why I work in the office. And but I was just kind of, let's just move forward. And I said, we didn't even know if there were openings. So I said, well, give them a call and see if there are openings. And we just decided to pray and keep walking through doors if they opened. And if they shut, then that wasn't what God had for us. But they kept opening.
Yeah, and at that time, the residential director was Ed Graff.
Okay, I think he's here.
He is here in the audience, in the live audience. So, yeah, he was just a great calming voice to talk to answer my questions, and we kind of rolled from there then. Yeah, it's a really good experience.
So we kind of heard their story. Do you guys remember that transitional time for you guys?
No.
You were 8.
Yeah. I remember, hey, we're moving. Okay.
Sounds good. How about you, Hannah?
Just a little bit. I don't remember much about it. I do remember I'm a person who can be very anxious and I hate change, but I just remember being excited during that transition. God gave that to me. That's what I remember the most.
So it's a bit of a move to
Yeah,
come
it was.
that far. Did you have like second thoughts or guesses when you're maybe a few months in, or is like, man, did we make a mistake, or did you feel confident?
You know what? We came out for an initial visit on a weekend,
Yeah.
and we stayed with the house parents at Maple, Nate and Rachel Mueller.
Okay.
And we spent a couple hours in the house, and then Nate took all the kids and us. We went down to the gym, and we played a game of like softball inside the gym.
Okay.
Love softball. And just seeing his interaction with the kids and seeing some not so great moments and how he handled it and how they still were able to communicate through it, that was really powerful to me. And I think it was on the drive home, we were able to talk it
Yeah.
through, and we both felt at peace about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that what you remember? It's been
Yeah,
a while.
I remember there being feelings of anxiousness beforehand. Just, I think a lot of it was just the unknown.
Yeah.
I had been out here to volunteer in '95 for a week, and this was 2008. So we're talking 13 years later. I hadn't even been on campus at all. So just to be able to spend a weekend in the houses and just be able to visually see what goes on and experience it for ourselves, yeah, it just felt right.
Very good. Do we have any other questions from the audience?
I have, yeah. So in 3 years' time, you see a lot of kids come and a lot of kids go. How did you kids deal with the loss of people
That's a really good question.
leaving your life that you might have gotten? They were friends, that you might have gotten attached to.
I would say for me, it was like we were a big family. I knew all the kids. We were friendly. I don't know that I was really attached to many of them, though. That's not really how I do relationships. I can't, it takes a long time for me to get really attached to people. So for me, I don't remember that being too much of a struggle. I don't know about you.
Man, I'm trying to remember. It was. I remember it being hard-ish, but there's also such a strong community of staff here that the residents weren't necessarily like my go-to like relationships. Although they were there, they were still quite a bit older than me, so it wasn't quite that peer kind of relationship. Although I do remember making good friends with some of them, and then you're sad to see them go, but at the same time you still know that it's a good thing that they're moving on for the most part. Yeah, I think about friendships, the most I remember is the community here of kids, like, and the safe
Yeah,
community.
house
Like,
kids.
that's one of the things I love most about Gateway, and I love most about being a kid at Gateway when I was, is that you get to experience the world outside of your sheltered, homeschooled, apostolic community. But you can still do that without fear. You can expand your knowledge of the world, but at the same time, you can, be all the way out on campus, out in the woods, without your parents having to know where you are. Like, you can just run around anywhere, go knock on someone's door and be like, hey, you want to come out and play? Yeah, sure. But still being able to not just seclude yourself in your own lifestyle. I feel like I learned a lot about how to interact with people that weren't like me, at the same time safely, without ever having to have that fear of,
We have another question. Roger, you got one?
I was just wondering, did you start as an assistant house parent? And so did you go from Grable, did you move back and forth?
We did,
How did
yep.
Connor and Hannah adapt to moving back and forth?
There was a great community both places. I love being in Grable. There's a whole street of other house parents. You could play around there with them, or here you've got house parents all around. It was the same community both places, and Mom had a big tub of all of our schoolwork that we moved back and forth. It worked pretty well.
Yeah, I thought it was fun.
I don't know what year it got put in, but there was a great addition. There's a very wide sidewalk that connects from almost all the way up to Leo down to Grable. So our kids could rollerblade, ride their bikes, go down. They've got a great library in Grable too. So when we were on duty here or even there, they had this great, safe, wide sidewalk off the busy road to be able to go back and forth. So another great thing about being a kid here. Man, you guys did have a lot of fun stuff.
Very good. Jeff?
Yeah, with turnover with house parents, I'm just curious what you did to protect yourself against burnout. If there was ways you were intentional about that.
That's a great question.
You hit it there, Jeff, with the word intentional. You had to be intentional. You had to be intentional with your family life. You had to be intentional with your devotion life, with your prayer life. So time management was extremely important, because I can remember weeks of being full on one and not the other one, and getting my life out of balance pretty quickly. And then you have the demands of the kids with their issues, and a lot of communication in the office with them. So yeah, just being intentional, even having to sit down with my wife and like, okay, so what are we going to do this week, or even this day, or the next 2 days? And so we're off for 2 days. That sounds great. Well, on that off time, it's a time to reconnect with our own kids as well. So time management is really pretty important. It can definitely be done, but intentionality is really important.
And I remember days when other friends would ask to play or something. We're like, no, this is our family time. This is family day. We would have those. Those were really good.
Yeah, I think it took looking ahead and seeing where opportunities would present itself to kind of disconnect from the work here. We tried, we always tried. One of the days when we were off, we tried to make sure we did something with family, and a lot of times we tried to go someplace off campus, just to kind of take the visual out of it. But it's a challenge to disconnect. Even you can step away, but you can't step away from the emotion that happens, because there's so much connection. And when you're dealing with hard stuff with kids, it's just like when you get connected, like you're their surrogate parent while they're here, and so you come to a point where you care for them just as much as you do your own kids. And so when they're going through difficult stuff, it's hard to disconnect. But just keeping, I think for me, one of the keys was to keep the big picture in mind, and that recognizing that we're sowing seeds, and their time here isn't meant to be permanent, and we just need to pour into them as much as we can while they're here, and then to recognize that our own family has needs as well, and be willing to set aside time to make sure that we're meeting those. Just intentionality, which is the story of everybody's life, right? Really.
Okay. We have one final question that we can do.
I think we all feel that this is the Lord's work. I'd like to hear how you you found that in your life or in, while you're here, how it brought glory to the Lord? Especially, we all know that it brings glory to the Lord, but how did it especially impact your life where you saw that? And you could be part of that. How did this really bring glory to the Lord?
Well, for me personally, the motto of Gateway is to provide help and healing to troubled children and families so that they may in turn may bless others, right? So to be a part of that and to realize that kids come in hurting and that we can offer the living hope. We can offer Jesus Christ to them. And it's up to them if they're going to accept that or not, right? So the opportunities to display truth are almost every minute of the day here. And many times it comes through really, really hard situations. You've got a kid that just slammed doors and he's got a whole lot of bitterness. That's something going on in his life that probably doesn't have anything to do with Gateway. But to be able to have him come in the office and pray with him and love him and encourage him and then let him talk about those feelings and realize that Christ can be in that too. I think that's just really powerful to know that we are free to talk about Jesus Christ and to sow those seeds to these kids here. It was actually at that door right there that a young lady on her last day here, she said, "Can I go into that office with you and Heather?" Because she said, "My life is a mess, and I know that you guys have something that I really want." And so we were able to present Jesus Christ to her, and she accepted Jesus Christ in that office. And so definitely glory be to God for times like that.
Yeah, I would say in my own life, I can remember a time in the evening I was working on logs or something, and I was just really struggling. I had an interaction with a kid that day that was just had to talk him through something that I had talked him through I don't know how many times. And I just remember struggling with those feelings of like, when are they ever going to get it? And just just being so frustrated. And it was, the Holy Spirit came to me and said, "Heather, this is what it is to love like Jesus loved." He loves us when we continue to wallow in our sinful habits and when we continue to mess up. And that really impacted me, just to recognize that, like, yeah, it was really, I knew that Jesus loved like that, but it hit me that, like, yeah, that was probably a really, really hard thing for him, and yet he did it perfectly. And so that gave me motivation to keep loving, to keep forgiving, and to keep plugging away and getting in there. So.